Vice President Kamala Harris has officially chosen
Tim Walz
as her running mate.
Welcome back to Independent Blazers. I'm Dan.
I'm Joe.
Today, Joe, what are we going to talk about?
We do have some breaking news. Vice President Harris has selected her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Obviously, he's serving as the second term as governor of Minnesota. So, Vice President Harris makes her pick. This really comes as no surprise because he's been in the top three of the past month, the final three. It was Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. So this really comes as no surprise here. And what's really shocking about this is she really satisfied the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, the progressive side of the Democratic Party. She is going to rely on the progressive youth vote, and especially in foreign policy, the Democratic Party has gone farther left. So we'll talk about here Vice President Tim Walz. Do you have anything to add?
Well, he is known as a liberal Democrat, but he also did 24 years as an Army reservist. Right. And I believe he toured, I think, was it Iraq he went to? And he made the rank of Master Sergeant. So
yeah, he went to Italy in Operation Enduring Freedom. Little bit about him, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him here. Obviously, he's 60 years old, and when President Biden, announced he wasn't running for re-election, it was Vice President Harris, who now is the leader of the Democratic Party. She's the new standard bearer. A little bit about Governor Walz. He's a former congressman. He's in his second term as governor of Minnesota, a state that Democrats have won every election cycle since 1972. 1972 was the last time a Republican won the state, and that's when Richard Nixon was president. Trump's team was hoping to flip this state this cycle. So Tim, he's in his second term as governor. He won his term in 2018. He was reelected in 2022. A couple of other personal items on Governor Walz. He grew up in a small town, Nebraska, in a family farm. He grew up in Nebraska. His father died of cancer when he was only 19 years old. So he served as both a football coach and a teacher here. And we're going to go into detail on his records here. He also served, as you say, in the Army National Guard. Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, was an enlisted Marine. He served 4 years in the Marines. He deployed to Iraq. Governor Walz served 24 years in the Army National Guard in the reserve unit. His unit was called up to Italy in 2003 in Operation Enduring Freedom. So no matter who wins, you're going to have an enlisted vice president in the White House who was enlisted. The last enlisted veteran to serve was Vice President Al Gore from 1992 to 2000. The only former enlisted military member to rise to the presidency was James Buchanan from 1867 to from 1867 to there's a typo in my notes. But he was from 1867, I believe, till 1871. I have to double check that. He served.
Because a lot of presidents of the 20th century were veterans themselves.
Yeah, Buchanan served as a private in the state militia in the War of 1812. So
that's right. JFK, Johnson, Nixon. Oh, yeah, of course, Eisenhower,
they
Truman.
Were officers. These guys are enlisted. They were enlisted.
Oh, that's
officers, yeah. So he'll be the third, and if he wins, so whoever wins, the vice president enlisted military background. So he served 24 years in the Army National Guard. He retired as an E8. So which is pretty good actually. I can get in the future. We can more in depth on him as a veteran. He served and he did 5 terms as a congressman on Capitol Hill. He served on the Committee of Veterans Affairs. So that's pretty much a quick summation here. And add, Dan.
Oh, like I just concur with you that it's going to be interesting how both sides have military veterans, let alone enlisted veterans. Yeah. Funny feeling that each is going to discredit the other and say, oh, well, you didn't serve in this branch. Oh, well, you didn't serve in combat, or if you did, it wasn't here. Or it's just going to always be comparison and not consolidation.
Right. A little more detail, how he ended up in Minnesota. Obviously, he was raised in rural Nebraska. He enlisted in the Army Guard in 1981 when he graduated from high school. He attended Chadron State College in Nebraska, where he graduated in 1989 with a degree in social science education. I think you may find this interesting about him, Dan. He taught English and American history in China for 1 year through a program at Harvard University. So I know as world travelers, we find that one interesting.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that he was both a veteran and a traveler, and he lived abroad, and he studied social science. He knows both sides of the spectrum.
He taught high school. He was a high school teacher and a football and basketball coach in Nebraska, I should say. It doesn't say the high school, the 3 different sources I'm looking at. But 6 years later, he moved to Mankato, Minnesota to teach geography at Mankato West High. So that's where I guess he moved to Minnesota. He obviously fell in love with it, and obviously he served. He did 5 terms. He was elected as representatives in 2006 in Minnesota's first congressional district, which is mostly in southern Minnesota, a rural district. So there's a quick background. There's some quick background on him. Anything to add, Dan?
I mean, you know a lot more about him than I do, but I'll say he sure accomplished a lot. He sure has a broad range of experience.
Oh, yeah.
Worldwide, I will say that he's definitely been around, and I'm not sure what his political views are exactly, his personal views or his policies as of yet. But I have to say, his life experience, I can't help but give him credit.
Right, he has life experience. He didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's a regular guy. You got to give him that. And on this channel, look, we're gonna go over policy eventually, but we have to be fair. Yeah, he is a progressive. He is a progressive. Okay, to the left. He's for abortion rights. He's for he had some stringent COVID lockdowns in 2020. Look, we're gonna have a honeymoon period. The Republicans are really going to focus in on his record. We'll see if the media does their job. And again, if you're a progressive Democrat, you love this pick. From a political science standpoint, this election is going to come down, Dan, to 3 states. Okay, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, they have to take 2 of those 3, probably to win the White House. Yeah. So both Vice President Harris and former President Trump, they picked people that grew up humbly and had Rust Belt roots, Midwestern.
One of them, Wisconsin's another of them. And actually Pennsylvania, to a certain extent, is part of the Rust Belt, from what I understand.
Yeah, so those 3 states, they're trying to appeal to working class voters. That's from the political strategy standpoint. These 2 make sense from that point. Whether you like them or not, that's for the people out there to decide. And in the future, we will go more in depth, not only on Governor Wentz's record, but J.D. Vance, his lack of experience as a senator. So we got to cover them both. But here's what we do know: the American people have a clear choice now. There is 2 different contrasts. You got a right-wing populist on one ticket and a left-wing populist on another. And look, the governor is going to go through a honeymoon period, but if the media does his job, they're going to question him. He's not without controversy. He had a DUI arrest, and there's some question on his COVID policies and the BLM riots. And look, they're gonna be covered. We're gonna cover them in the future. But we're gonna also cover Vance. We're gonna be fair.
Yeah. I don't think the DUI will be used against him because George W. Bush once had a DUI back in Maine.
He did,
70s.
but they did it 3 days before the election. They dropped that. Again, he'll probably be forgiven for it. He does come without controversy. On the one side, Republicans are going to say that, and on the other side, the Democrats can have potentially a couple problems here. Well, this is what I mean. Basically, a reliable voting bloc for the Democrats has always been the Jewish vote. How do they feel about this? Because let's face it, the past 20 years, and I would say actually no, I take that back. The past 9 years, the party has gotten more left and more anti-Israel in a certain sect of the party. More traditional Democrats are very pro-Israel. The progressives have been a lot harsher on Israel. And Governor Walz has that same record with progressives. So how is the old moderate Jewish voter going to feel about this? Because a lot of people are saying, look, they thought she should have picked Shapiro because he's a moderate Democrat. He was a pretty popular governor in Pennsylvania, and he was 19 electoral college votes. So, but again, in time, we're going to see. We're wrong. Who knows? We have 3 months. We'll find out.
And apparently, by the way, something else about Walz. When he was in Congress alone, he advocated for gun rights. When he became governor, then he started advocating for gun regulations. So it looks like he's flip-flopped a bit on this one.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that has to do in Congress's district. It's a very rural district in Minnesota, in the southern state. So probably with that voting block, they're more pro-gun when he became governor. Because look, Minnesota is a center-left state. It's the last time, what we said earlier in the show here, was Richard Nixon took it in 1972. He's taken that state since. So, and Trump was hoping to flip that state. Now he'll have a hard time. Because as of the latest polls, she's up, Vice President Harris is up by 7 in that state. Not impossible, but it's likely Democrat unless something changes.
Yeah, fair enough.
They do align on several key issues. I would say he is a political soulmate of the president. So going to be interesting. She is basically catering to the progressives of her party. So this is a gamble.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I need to add something. We were wrong. It wasn't Master Sergeant that Walz made it to. It was Command Major Sergeant, which is E9.
He served in that capacity. He never got the rank though. Yeah, he served in that capacity, which is not, and I'm not knocking him that. So, because sometimes if there's a shortage, an E8 can hold the position, and he did that, which is a good thing. Nothing wrong. Believe me, he accomplished a lot in the reserves, getting that high. So
yeah,
look, it's not easy to make rank, especially in the reserves. I can tell you, with my active duty career in the Navy, certain ranks and certain jobs are hard to get promoted in, even if you're good at them. So it's this election again. I believe the 3 states and Vance and Walz are going to play key roles in trying to reach these working class voters. So Harris is taking a gamble here. She is taking a gamble, and time will tell. She does like him personally. I believe they have met in the past and have talked. They see eye to eye on a lot of issues, such as abortion rights, such as wanting higher taxes on the wealthy. I'm not saying they're right or wrong on these issues. What I am saying is, though, he is sort of a political soulmate for her. And it shows the younger generation Democrat. I can't emphasize this enough. She's relying on the youth vote, the younger Democrats, to carry her on here. This is what this pick is. It's a gift to the progressives. Now, on the Republican side, they were sweating Shapiro getting picked. They feared him a little bit. Now, they don't fear him as much. They view this ticket as radical leftists. That's how they're gonna attack their record, particularly his record. And the Democrats are gonna attack Trump and Vance. He's inexperienced, vice versa. It's gonna be a brutal election season. This is not be for the faint of heart.
No siree.
So also, let's look. Pennsylvania is tied right now. A dead heat. Wisconsin, depending on the poll, is tied or Harris is up by 1. In political polls, if you're within 4 points, it's a margin of error. So the polls do have a little 4 to 3 point margin of error in them. So we're talking in Michigan, she was up by 4. So the swing should play a role. For the Trump campaign, they hope to get Nevada. They hope they'll pick off Nevada, gain back Arizona, which they barely lost last time, and Georgia, and hold on to North Carolina. Because these are the states that are going to really decide this election. The rest of the states are pretty much dug in. Like, obviously, California is going to the Democrats. I'm talking on a national level, not congressional.
Sure. The West Coast and then entire Northeast, that's going to go to Democrats no matter what, just like some southern states and Midwestern states are going to go to the Republicans no matter what.
Right. Florida, Trump's winning by 10 in the last poll I looked at. Texas, he's up by 13. Ohio, he's up by 9. Those are pretty much red states. Georgia, he was up with Biden. He's still up, but not as much. And where she's going to go into Atlanta and get the minority vote, try to bring that back. So, again, the days of the landslide have been over. Even in 2012 when Obama got reelected, from a electoral college standpoint, it looked like a rout, but actually it was very close. Like, for example, Obama in 2012 won Florida by 1 point. And, so we're in a divided country, and it's, like I said, this is not going to be no landslide either way. And so, what do you think? Did she make the right picking Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota?
Possibly. Some say yes, some say no, but at least she's picking a veteran. Possibly in response to Trump picking Vance, who is also a veteran, an enlisted veteran at that. They're both using the working class ticket because both Vance and Walz come from working class backgrounds. I think this is going to be quite an interesting competition. I do think people, both Kamala Harris and Trump had more privileged backgrounds, but they picked working class people. So yeah, it's going to be a one.
And again, here, will the media do their job that keep it down the middle? This is the media is supposed to be working for the people. Both of these candidates, actually all 4 of them actually, should be vetted properly. They should be equally tough on all of them. Yes, know about the Minnesota governor so far. Yes, he veers to the left. And in the coming weeks, we'll do a show before the election contrasting the policies between the Harris ticket and the Trump ticket. One thing is for sure, though, America has a clear choice now. Clear choice. What direction? Because believe me, especially when it comes to foreign policy, the border, you have a contrast now. You have in the days of I would say Humphrey and Kennedy, Republicans. This ain't your grandfather's Democratic Party anymore. It's a new day in U.S. politics. It's a populist movement.
It's gone more. It's way more extreme than it used to be. I mean, back 30 years ago, you see Democrats who had more conservative views than the average Republicans, and you saw Republicans who had more liberal views than the average Democrat. And now it's just completely polarized.
For example, if you look how he ran in the 90s, he could never run the Democratic Party today. He could never run.
Right, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan's policy today, you would think he was, quote unquote, bleeding heart liberal. Same with Richard Nixon with some of his policies.
Yeah. So times have changed, folks. It's a new. Harris is her party. Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. Whether you like both of them or not, whether you like their vice presidential picks or not, this is what we got in America. This is what we have. And in the future, we hope to go and dig deeper on all of them. Because believe me, you have a now that you can't say, well, they're very similar. Yeah, actually, no. Donald Trump, for example, Trump and Vance want to toughen the border. They want to lower taxes. They don't want to raise them. Obviously, on the upper echelon, I would say the people in America making $500,000 a year or above, the Harris team wants to raise them. You know, it's little things like that. And again, I'm simplifying it. There's more to it than what I'm saying, but in the future, we're going to dig deep on their policies. And what we hope to do here is not be biased. You can make your own judgment, your own decision. Anything to add, Dan?
Nothing to add at this point.
Like I say, this is a power play by Harris. This is a progressive power play. She's rolling the dice. I guess from that point, I got to give her credit. She's staying true to herself. She's rolling the dice. She didn't play it safe. If she had picked Senator Kelly in Arizona, or Shapiro, she didn't play it safe. She went with who thinks like her. She's trying to party in her image now. Just like Donald Trump is trying to shape the Republican Party by making J.D. Vance the anointed one. So you see, both of these are power play moves by both sides.
Yes.
The polls are very close. I wouldn't start, for those of you out there paying attention to the polls, until probably mid-September. They'll change a lot. They'll fluctuate. Harris is probably going to be ahead in a lot of the polls. Through the Democratic convention, she'll probably get a bounce. And then you'll see him tighten in September again. That's how history normally works. So if you look at the convention, for example, Michael Dukakis at one point was beating George Herbert Walker Bush by more than 13 points in August of '88. And then Bush came back and won that election pretty easily, pretty handily. Carter and Reagan were close until the final weekend in 1980, where Reagan just pulled away. So you never know what's going to happen in elections. So don't drive yourself crazy on polls, no matter what side you're on.
Right. And political parties are not something holy and pure. They're not absolute truths. They're not math or science. Mostly their opinions and what people benefit from, what certain people benefit from in certain aspects.
Now, I will give Walz this. He has a very folksy appeal, the way he talks. He talks very down to earth. Whether you agree with him or not, he across as likable. So in American politics, showmanship and likability is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And again, we talked about this earlier. Harris and Governor Walz align on many, many issues. So she picks her political soulmate, in my view. So this is interesting, folks. Strap on, for America and the world, strap on your seatbelts, because American politics is a circus, and you're going to see quite some crazy stuff the next 3 months.
Yeah, while you strap on your seatbelts, remember, grab your independent mind and blaze.
Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, share, bang the notification button, and hey, be safe wherever you're at.